Good afternoon, Chairman Wells, members of the Human Services Committee. As you know, my name is Judith Sandalow. I'm the Director of the Children's Law Center and a proud resident of the District of Columbia. I'm testifying today on behalf of the Children's Law Center, which is the largest nonprofit legal services organization in the district and the only such organization devoted to a full spectrum of children's legal services. Every year, we represent 1,200 low-income children and families focusing on children who have been abused and neglected and children with special education and health care needs. The majority of our clients are children in foster care or their caregivers. And I think you've probably been thanked 100 times already this afternoon, but I can't resist adding my thanks, Mr. Wells, for your leadership on the Adoption and Guardianship Subsidy Expansion Bill, which passed earlier. It is really a tremendous moment for the children of the city, and I really appreciate your leadership on that. On the budget, CFSA had some hard choices to make, and we think they made some good choices. However, we think they also made some poor choices, specifically cutting several cost-effective programs and services that prevent child abuse and that support and strengthen the families who care for our children. Others have already testified at length about the importance of rapid housing, the Grandparent Caregiver Program, foster parent stipends, community-based prevention services. I want to add to that the Parent Advocacy Program and respite care. I don't need to add anything more in my oral testimony. My written testimony goes on with lots of statistics. I'd like to turn to what I think might be the good news of the hearing, which is we have found a fair amount of money that you can use to restore these programs. So I'd like to talk for a few minutes about that. There is, on our estimate, somewhere between $5.9 million and $25.5 million in unaccounted for federal dollars in CFSA's budget that can be used to restore these cuts. There is money in federal support for guardianship subsidies that is at a minimum $3 million, federal reimbursement for foster youth 18 to 20 years old, a minimum of $2 million, federal support for school stability transportation, anywhere from $108,000 to $1.3 million, federal support for case planning, $405,000 to as much as over $500,000. We urge this committee to work with CFSA and the Chief Financial Officer to quantify the precise amount of missing federal revenue and then to use the freed local funds to restore these programs. My written testimony, as you probably imagine, details these programs, their costs and importance, talks at length about the missing federal revenue and exactly where that money can come from. And just to make a point about the federal revenue, this is not Medicaid dollars. This is not money which requires complex analysis or difficult interpretations of federal law or lots of paperwork. These are dollars in which the federal law is clear and federal guidance is clear. They don't require complicated paperwork or it shouldn't require any reprogramming. In fact, we don't believe there's any disagreement that CFSA can draw down these dollars. These dollars, which are primarily from Fostering Connections, the 2008 federal law, do not involve any of the Medicaid reimbursement complications. The only explanation CFSA has given for not accounting for these funds is because the federal government has not yet approved its amended state plan. But the necessary state plan amendments are straightforward. They track the clearly established provisions of federal law. The law is extremely clear about what DC is entitled to receive. I hope that you will look deeply into those revenues, add them back to the budget, and then restore the cuts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sandalow.
Good afternoon.